start with how offensive it is to say that I am a witting or unwitting asset of a foreign country, working against the interests of our people and our country, the country that I am willing to lay my life down for. So if you're saying it's not deliberately, then you are implying that I am too stupid and too naive and lack the intelligence to know what I am doing. That is extremely offensive to me and to every woman of color.
Put the quote back up.
Welcome to The View, a place where politics is often served with a side of sarcasm and a heaping scoop of echo chamber energy. The hosts, veterans of heated debate, quick retorts, and carefully rehearsed sound bites. It's their house, their turf. Until Tulsi Gabbard walked in, they thought it'd be just another day, another guest, another round of pre-scripted softball jabs. But Tulsi wasn't reading from their script. She walked in like a chess master at a checkers table. She didn't smile politely and nod along. She didn't couch her words in buzzwords or deflections. She came armed, not with anger, but with poise, precision, and the kind of blunt honesty that instantly changes the temperature in a room. One host threw the usual jab. You go on Fox News a lot with Tucker Carlson. Why not the other more balanced hosts?
You're on state TV all the time. Why do you go on Fox TV? Fox Channel, which is a propaganda network, 16 times with Tucker Carlson. I never see you with Chris Wallace or that other guy, what's his name, Brett Baer. Well, why aren't you on with them? They're definitely middle of the road. Why do you go on with Tucker, who's a lot?
Tulsi smiled, calm, collected, then dropped. I go on CNN, MSNBC, Hannity, Brett Baer, Tucker. I'm not here to speak only to those who agree with me. I'm here for all Americans.
I can ask you about why I go on Fox News.
Yeah.
I go on Tucker Carlson, go on Brett Baer, go on Sean Hannity, go on MSNBC, go on CNN. I am here to speak to every single American in this country about the unifying leadership that I want to bring as president. Not just speak to those who agree with me.
It's nice to think that could happen.
To speak with those who may disagree with me, recognizing that I'm asking for the opportunity to serve every single person in this country. We have to come together for our country and our country's future.
Boom. First punch landed. Silence. And then came the resurrection of the Hillary Clinton claim, the infamous Russian asset accusation. One host tried to sugarcoat it. I don't think she said you're a witting asset, just you might be used unwittingly. But Tulsi didn't flinch. She responded like a soldier fed up with half-truths. That is exactly what she meant. Her spokesperson confirmed it. She called me a Russian doll. There was no mistaking that. This wasn't passive rebuttal. It was a fact check so clean it left no room for spin. Joy Behar, the queen of dismissive wit, leaned in for her turn, maybe hoping a sharp quip would get the audience back on her side. She called Tulsi a useful idiot and hinted she was too cozy with dictators. Tulsi's response? Measured, professional, firm. I've served in Congress for nearly 7 years on committees for national security, armed services, and foreign affairs. I've seen what war really is. So yes, I speak to leaders around the world. That's called diplomacy. Translation. Sit down, Joy. Mic still in Tulsi's hand. Whoopi Goldberg tried to pull the classic let's calm things down move, maybe steer the conversation to safer waters. But the calm was deceptive. Because Tulsi wasn't yelling, she didn't need to. Her tone was steady, but her words hit like thunderclaps. Our political system is broken, both parties are guilty, power is being weaponized to destroy opposition. That's not democracy, that's banana republic behavior. It wasn't an opinion, it was a mirror. And no one on that panel wanted to look into it. Then came Sunny Hostin, hoping to land the intellectual uppercut. I think she's a Trojan horse, she once said on air. Polling low, but still in the race. Tulsi didn't miss a beat. What does that even mean? Several candidates poll at 1%. Why target me specifically? You don't say that about Andrew Yang or others. So what is this really about? Sunny blinked. You could almost hear the inner voice screaming, abort mission. The hosts, feeling the heat from Tulsi's unapologetic stance, decided it was time for a classic attack. The accusation was straight from the mainstream playbook. You've been too soft on Assad. This is the go-to smear, the one they drop when they want to shut someone up, the typical Syria with Assad card. But Tulsi? She wasn't even rattled. She stood her ground, leaning in slightly, cool as ever, and responded, first of all, let's get one thing straight. I'm not pro-Assad. I'm pro-peace. I'm against any US military intervention that does more harm than good. She then laid out the ugly reality. We've spent trillions in the Middle East, all in the name of human rights, all while leaving a trail of destruction and chaos in our wake. If you want to talk about peace, let's start by stopping regime change wars. The panel was dead silent for a second. And Tulsi, without missing a beat, hit them with, if you don't know the history of Syria and what our intervention there did, you shouldn't be running the show. I'm here to tell you that we have a responsibility to protect our own interests, and that doesn't mean bombing every country we disagree with. The audience wasn't sure what to do. The usual jeering wasn't going to work on Tulsi. She wasn't backing down. By now, Tulsi wasn't just playing the game, she was rewriting the rules. One host, eager to get a response, tried to ask her about her political identity. But Tulsi, isn't this why you left the Democratic Party? Aren't you just a party of one now? You're isolated. Tulsi's answer was swift and sharp, her tone unwavering. It's funny that you say isolated when what I'm really doing is standing up for the millions of Americans who feel silenced by both parties. There's a growing movement out there of people who are fed up with the establishment, and yes, I'm proud to stand with them. She gave a wry smile, knowing full well that what she was saying was about to resonate with the very people watching. The ones tired of the usual party lines, the ones who were looking for someone to tell it like it is. She added, I'm not isolated. I'm speaking truth that both parties are too scared to touch. And with that, she dismantled their tired narrative. It wasn't about being part of a club anymore. It was about representing the truth, no matter the cost. One host, trying to pin her down, made the mistake of going back to her past military service. But how can you criticize the government when you were part of it? You were in the military. Isn't that a contradiction? Tulsi's expression didn't change. She was a warrior for truth, not a puppet for the political elite. No, it's not a contradiction, she said calmly. I served because I love my country, but my loyalty lies with the American people, not with the politicians who've sold us out. She kept hitting them where it hurt. The military-industrial complex doesn't care about our soldiers. They care about profits. The same people who send our young men and women to war are the ones making billions off of destruction. It was like she shattered their world of safe, sanitized talking points. The echo chamber? Gone. She was refusing to play by their rules, and the guests could feel it. At this point, the host, clearly growing frustrated, took one last swing, this time pulling out the ultimate weapon in their arsenal. But aren't you concerned about Trump's behavior too? How can you defend his actions? Tulsi was ready. She didn't flinch or try to dodge. Instead, she looked straight at them, eyes locked with laser focus. I've criticized Trump when necessary, especially when he bombed Syria, but this selective outrage is the problem. It's not about who is in office, it's about what they do. If you can't see the difference between opposing war, no matter who's in charge, you're part of the problem. Her words were like a bombshell. It wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a sharp, surgical attack on the hypocrisy of the very people questioning her. She wasn't playing their game, and they knew it, and there it was, the last resort, the tired, worn-out accusation. You're a Putin puppet! The host thought they could trip her up with this one, but Tulsi was far too sharp for that. She didn't let the smear land. So let me get this straight. Asking for diplomacy and peace means I'm a Putin puppet. That's rich. That's the narrative they've been peddling for years, and when it's exactly why we're in the mess we're in. She paused, giving them a moment to stew in their own words, and then delivered the punchline. The people who scream Putin every time diplomacy is brought up are the same ones who've pushed endless wars that have caused real harm to real people. So if you want to call me a Putin puppet for advocating for peace, go ahead. But I'll keep pushing for a future where our children don't have to grow up in a world of endless conflict. Boom. The Putin puppet card burned to the ground. She wasn't having it. By now, every word Tulsi spoke was like a landmine. She was walking through the battlefield, and every step was a precision strike. The hosts were desperate to corner her, to trick her into some reaction, but she was too disciplined, too in control. Another host tried to jab at her military past again. But you were in the military, Tulsi. Doesn't that make you part of the problem? Part of the system? Tulsi looked them dead in the eye, calmly saying, the problem is not the military. The problem is how our leaders treat the military. They send our brave men and women into endless wars for no good reason. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Her calm, collected delivery was even more devastating. Each point was a fact they couldn't argue with, and every word she spoke made their narrative weaker. It wasn't just the hosts who were feeling the heat now. The audience was starting to shift too. You could see it in their faces, the subtle nods and raised eyebrows. Tulsi wasn't just answering questions, she was challenging the very foundation of the show's narrative. Every time one of the hosts tried to jab at her, the audience could feel it. They knew what was happening, and Tulsi in turn kept her cool. She spoke to the American people directly. What you're seeing here is what happens when someone refuses to play the game. We're all fed up with the lies, the manipulation, the same talking points recycled every single day. And it was clear, the hosts were losing ground. The usual scripted laughter and applause weren't happening. Instead, a new energy was in the room, one of doubt, one of reflection. By the end of the segment, the mood in the studio had completely shifted. The hosts were scrambling to wrap it up, their usual game of trying to trip her up falling flat, but Tulsi wasn't done. She wasn't there to make friends, she was there to make a point. As the camera started to fade out, she gave one final cutting remark: "I'm not here for your approval. I'm here to speak for the millions of Americans who want a future free from endless war and corruption. The choice is simple, peace or war, and I choose peace." And just like that, Tulsi Gabbard left the stage. No applause, no grand gestures, just the sound of silence as the camera cut to the next segment. The segment ended, but the damage was done. The hosts, clearly rattled, tried to reset the atmosphere with their forced smiles, asking Tulsi in a strained tone, "Well, thanks for coming, Tulsi." But the energy in the room was completely different now. They'd been exposed. The audience had seen the cracks. Tulsi had gone in as an outsider, but by the end of the show, she had completely taken control of the narrative. Tulsi didn't just show up to the view, she changed the game. The hosts were left scrambling, trying to stitch together their broken arguments. But the truth had already been laid bare. Who just won that fight? Tulsi did, with facts, with poise, with truth. She left a table full of egos shattered and an audience wide-eyed, wondering how they could have missed the point for so long.